Welcome everybody to Blue Collar Startup, the podcast where hard work meets big ideas. This is your home for real talk, real stories, and real strategies from the front lines of life and the business of the trades. I'm your host, Derek Foster of Daigle Cleaning Systems here in Albany, New York. I'm actually filling in today for our co-host, Michael Nelson of Five Towers Media. He's got some personal things he's taking care of today, so y'all are stuck with me. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. Eric Wick. We're very honored to have him on. So thank you for joining us, Eric.
Yeah, my pleasure, Derek. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And I know, I think the value in the conversation, here is support for a lot of our listeners. I think they'll find a lot of value. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what you do and your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, happy to do that. Thank you, Derek. So I'm currently the founder and CEO of a company called Safety Team Technologies. And real quick, it's just a fully automated, done-for-you solution that's digital for safety compliance. But I'll tell you a little bit about how I got there. So when I was in college, and I'm here in California, which is a state that's known for having a lot of red tape, a lot of regulations. Not exactly the easiest environment for businesses. And I learned that in my first job out of college. So I went to school thinking I'm going to be a finance guy. And I graduated right when the tech bubble burst, so no one's hiring finance guys, and everyone hated anyone to do with financial advising or stockbroking at the time because, people's 401ks had been cut in half at that time. So ended up getting a job with a company, ADP. I was an outside sales guy. They stuck me in a sales territory, which was in East Oakland, California, which, I stuck out like a sore thumb out there, man. It's a tough spot. They're like, just make sure you leave town before 4:00. That's when the gunshots start ringing out. But what I liked about that job is that I worked closely with blue collar business owners. It's a very industrial town. There's still a lot of manufacturing going on there. There's a lot of, distributors, trucking companies, and contractors. So I worked with them to help them with their payroll problems. After that, did a short stint in medical device, realized I was pretty unhappy, working in hospitals, working with doctors who aren't exactly as down to earth as like your typical blue collar business owner. So ended up going back into, the services field, servicing blue collar businesses as an insurance broker. And I realized very soon that it's such a competitive environment as an insurance broker. I mean, you as a business owner, you probably get, when your renewal is coming up, you're probably getting 10, 15 calls a day from brokers who want to quote your insurance.
No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, in California, it's common. But so I wanted to differentiate myself. So I decided I'm going to become an OSHA compliance expert. And anyone who's going to make me their insurance broker, I'm going to partner with them to make sure all their safety program are in place and prepared for, what could happen with OSHA or if an injured worker hires an attorney. So I became the OSHA expert. And after 5-6 years of working with my clients, getting referrals into other clients to help with their OSHA compliance, I was stretched far too thin. Imagine me pulling up to a construction site with a Bluetooth speaker, my laptop, a projector screen, like 100-foot extension cord, and I'm playing Spanish safety videos, then passing around a clipboard for guys to sign. And my clients loved it. They were very loyal. They referred me to other businesses, but I was stretched far too thin. And then that's when the idea came, like, hey, is it possible to create a software solution that can just make this a set it and forget it solution for safety training, compliance, and other aspects of safety training? And so that was about 3 years ago when we started it. And I hired some software engineers, found some investors that believed in the idea. And sorry for the long-winded story, but that's how we got here today.
Listen, man, that's amazing. You pivoted a couple times from what it sounds like, and going through and helping other business owners. You're going through it yourself, which is awesome. I'm sure. Did that help, you be able to relate to a lot of the businesses you were working with?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like you come in with this mindset that you've got a great service that you offer, whether it's, you're in construction or you're, a machine shop and manufacturing, and you've got these plans to grow this company. And then somewhere along the line, you get bogged down with red tape, unforeseen issues such as, safety compliance, that could really drive a business owner crazy. And, so you end up dealing with that, but you find ways to overcome it.
So, how does it work? Obviously, there's especially here in New York, and I was laughing because we do get a lot of insurance brokers that are breathing down our neck too around renewal time, and New York State has some very strict laws, a scaffold law, and there's a lot of compliance that needs to be done, obviously, by construction companies where we are, and I'm sure it's the same across the country. So what does the process look like for you guys when you come into, a blue collar business to help them with their safety program? How does that look from first conversation to rollout, and what different products and services do you guys offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's two aspects primarily when it comes to OSHA compliance. So there's the written compliance, having all your written programs in place, which that's not really an area where a lot of companies struggle, because you could put together a template, or you could work with a safety consultant who can customize an IIPP for you, right? Injury illness prevention program, put together your heat illness prevention program. In New York, you probably have, a safety program for working in cold weather conditions as well. Hearing conservation, you could get all the written programs in place. That's not very challenging. The tough part is implementing the safety program.
Sure.
And when I say implementing, I mean the recurring aspects of it. You're supposed to host tailgate safety trainings in California every 10 business days, which is biweekly. I assume it's probably similar in New York.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies struggle, right? Getting all the employees together. If you have some employees speak Spanish, right? So you got to be bilingual. You got to make sure they understand the material you're presenting to them. And then you've got to document it. And it's like, how do you keep track of thousands of pieces of paper with the employees' names on it over time if you need it 5 years later when OSHA comes in to audit you? It's a logistical nightmare. And then you have, you're supposed to be doing job site safety assessments periodically, other hazard assessments. If you have a facility, you're supposed to at least quarterly go through with a checklist and see if you can identify any hazards. Observe the employees as they're working, see if they're doing anything unsafe. And then if you identify something, you create another report with the identified hazards that you spotted. So with our platform, we're just giving business owners and their team a way to complete these requirements digitally. The tailgate trainings are a set it and forget it solution. So you choose the industry you're in, and then we've got hundreds of safety videos that are actually produced by a company out there on the East Coast. And they're micro videos. So they're short, they're precise. They cover a specific topic in 3 to 4 minutes. The employees watch these videos on a mobile device. It could be a tablet or their mobile phone. So it could be done anywhere, right? They could be out at a job site. They don't have to come into an office for the safety meeting. And then after the video, they take a short quiz, which tests whether or not they were paying attention to the safety video. And then what makes this the most effective is that the quiz is gamified. So the employees can see a leaderboard and they know who's getting the questions correct and getting points for that. And the ones that aren't paying attention are at the bottom of the leaderboard. So because no employee wants to be at the bottom, they're actually paying attention to the videos, and it's making an impact on the frequency of claims that a lot of our clients have. They're seeing it go down.
That's awesome. So yeah, so essentially it's an investment for really any business to help save and reduce their insurance burden over time.
Yeah. The goal is to reduce, workers' comp premium, also to reduce the legal compliance issues. I mean, it happens all the time out here in California. You got an employee who was hurt at work. They're on disability, so they're sitting at home watching TV, and all they see are these commercials. Every other commercial is some attorney, hey, were you injured on the job? Or, give our office a call. We'll make sure that you're maximizing your benefits and your payout. And then the attorneys start asking, hey, were you trained on the safe way to do your job? Does your employer seem to have any concern for your safety and for the employee? And if they say no, we weren't having safety training, then your company gets exposed to these other lawsuits that are not covered by workers' comp. So yeah, we try to protect our clients from that, in addition to reducing claims.
Now, do you guys have conversations on a regular basis with like some of the actual insurance carriers and those guys to see like what some of the trends in the industry are, and tailor your platform or your content to help offset those things? Or how does that work?
I mean, but every industry has like their most common claims, right? Like in the cleaning business, it's a lot of slip, trip, and fall.
Yeah.
And I've got a few clients that are in the commercial cleaning and janitorial business, and slip, trip, and fall. You see, hand, wrist, and finger injuries, lower back injuries, from lifting. And so it's different in every industry, but we partnered with this video production company that has something like 1,500 different safety videos. So we'll customize a lineup of videos for each industry. So it's giving training to the employees in the risks that they're most exposed to.
Gotcha.
So we customize it as much as possible. Yeah. And the insurance companies, I mean, they try to offer something similar, but what they do is they say, hey, if you're a client of a policyholder from our insurance company, we'll give you access to this whole library of videos, which is great. But then you still have the issue of how do you logistically get all the employees together at once to play a video for them? And then if they're, some of them speak Spanish or a different language, it's like, then you got to play multiple video. It's really tough to do it and stay productive.
That's awesome. Yeah. And again, that file could sit in the owner's computer and never go anywhere, right? Nothing ever be done with it, I would assume. So you're not actually solving the problem. So very interesting. I took a look at your website. I mean, it's very well done. It's a very cool platform that you built, and very cool idea, and definitely something that's extremely important. And as a business owner, I guess, what are some of the challenges that you faced along the way, from when you had the idea for this concept, to get to the point to where you had all this content and these videos made? What did that process look like for you? I would imagine it had to be a huge lift.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough first vetting out a software company that you trust, because they have so much control over the quality of our platform. So if there's a bug that pops up, it's like, are they going to be there in the middle of the night to fix it so things are working correctly the next day? So I was fortunate to partner up with a great software and engineering team that understood what I was trying to accomplish and is also there for me, if there is an unexpected bug that pops up in the software or some issue we need to resolve. Like today, the server, I think, temporarily went down and some employees were trying to watch a safety video, but it kept buffering and loading and pausing. So they let me know this issue's happening, and I heard it from another client too. And it's great. I could, get on the phone, call the engineer, and like within 10 minutes, they had the issue resolved. But yeah, and then another tough part was, finding the best safety video company to partner with, because there's no shortage of companies that make these safety videos. But, as your audience probably knows, there's nothing sexy and fun really about safety and safety videos. So we tried to find, the provider that had the most entertaining videos, that use live actors, that can kind of replicate the risks and, dangerous work environments that some of our clients have employees working in. And so, yeah, we're just fortunate that in this day and age, there's so many options out there that you can, if you take the time to vet everyone out, you're going to find what you feel is the best fit. And so far, everything's worked out great. Yeah, we've been at it 2 years and have a little over 100 clients. And, it's mostly just me and one other lead development sales guy who's helping me out.
That's amazing.
So a lot of the new business comes from client referral.
Okay. And you guys can, I mean, your model, obviously, you can reach anybody throughout the country, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to focus in California quite a bit because that's where, regulations and OSHA compliance officers are most aggressive. But we do have clients in New York and Oregon, Arizona, other states that are known for having active OSHA in the state.
Yeah. Would you say New York is number 2 on that list?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's, worse than California.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing work down in New York City. I mean, that's strictly regulated, and you got a lot of union jobs, union contractors that have strict safety requirements that, make it tougher for businesses that aren't used to having to meet all the compliance criteria.
So what does the future look like for your business, and where are you looking to I guess to take it?
Yeah, we're just looking to continue growing organically. I'm not going to be finding any investors that want to take half of our company equity so they could give us a couple $1 million and then, tell us what to do and expect that we grow at some, unmaintainable pace. So it's kind of nice just growing at our own pace for now. And we don't have any huge goals that we set, but because things are going just fine the way they are now, taking in the client referrals, calling companies that have a workers' comp experience mod problem where their X mod keeps going up and they just feel that their claims are out of control and there's nothing they can do about it. And when we come in, over time, they see that having recurring safety training with your employees and holding them accountable for, paying attention, performing on the quiz will have an impact in the frequency of your workplace injuries, which will bring down your experience mod, which will bring down your workers' comp premium and make you more competitive in your market.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's one of the biggest expenses, that's for sure. And it never goes down. At least it seems that way.
Yeah. No, I've got a janitorial business that I've worked closely with here in San Jose, California. They've got 100 or so employees. And when I first started working with him, he hadn't had any claims injuries in the prior 3 years. So his experience mod, and should I explain maybe real quick what the experience mod
if you don't mind, that's always a tricky subject. I've learned it over the years, but yeah, if you would, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, so to keep it simple, it's either gonna punish you or reward you for having bad claims history or for having a good claims record. So if you've got employees getting hurt on a regular basis, you're going to have a high experience mod, which is going to exponentially increase your workers' comp premium. And then you've got companies that haven't had a claim ever, or at least in the past 3 or 4 years. So they're going to have a discount on their workers' comp, which gives them a competitive edge against their peers. So this one guy in particular, his janitorial company had a 69 experience mod, which means he was getting a 31% discount compared to the average company in his industry. If you're at a 100 or a 1.0, you're right there at the average, what the state would expect in terms of how many claims you've got on your record. Mm-hmm. So he was at a 69. So that's the lowest he could go for the size of his company. And that's great, right? He's, instead of paying $100,000 a year, let's say he had a 10% rate for his payroll, which is common in California. Hopefully it's lower for you guys. So he's paying $69,000 a year instead of $100,000. But then he had an employee say that they hurt their back. I mean, there was no way to confirm whether or not they really hurt their back at work, because it was one of those scenarios where they're saying their back hurts, but They get an
Yep.
X-ray, they get an MRI, everything looks perfectly fine, but they've got bad pain and they can't work. So anyways, after that got filed, let's say it was a $40,000 claim. It knocked his experience mod up to a 94. So now he's paying, 25,000 or so more per year, and it hits his mod for 3 years. So over the
Wow.
course of 3 years, he's paying 75,000 more than he would have without that claim. And so he ended up paying more than what the claim actually cost, which, that's why a lot of people hate insurance so much, because it's like the insurance company ends up profiting no matter what. Unless you've got one of those really large claims, they call it a shock loss. Let's say an employee ends up in the hospital for a long time, or they're permanently disabled. It could be $500,000 or $1 million claim. That's, you're glad you have insurance to cover those, and it's not going to hit your mod that hard. But this janitorial guy I was just talking about, so he ended up having another claim after that, the year after, bumped his experience mod to a 120. So now he's paying 120 grand a year, let's say, for 2 claims, right? When he was paying 69,000 originally. So that's like a $50,000 increase just because he had 2 bad claims.
Yeah. And that's over the course of how long? A year?
Yeah,
2
it was
years?
one after the other. So in 2 years, he had one claim after the other, maybe a couple other real small ones, but these were the ones that hurt his experience mod. So when that happens, that's when you start to really consider implementing a robust safety program that's going to hopefully help reduce these claims. Because if you could just prevent one, I mean, the ROI on whatever time it took you to implement a safety program, preventing one claim is going to have a huge impact on your bottom line.
What does that structure look like? I mean, so it makes total sense, and I've been down that road as well. I've had to deal with that and implement some internal safety things that we've done. But what does that look like for a company that comes to you and they say, hey, we want to implement a safety program? How do you onboard them onto your platform? And what does that look like? Do you have custom solutions for different sizes of companies? I know you have them for different industries. But how does that work?
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, so our platform is going to help them implement their recurring safety trainings using the mobile app or any computer. If employees have access, they can watch the videos. So you get your tailgate training done, or you can conduct your hazard assessments and incident reporting digitally through our app. So those are from what I found in my 15 years of helping companies with this, those were the 2 areas that companies struggle with the most. But doing those 2, like through our platform, that's not 100% of your compliance. So we're not really doing 100%. You still have to have the written programs in place. If you're doing real high risk type work, like your guys are up on scaffolds every day, you probably need to give them some sort of like specialized scaffolding safety training, or they may need an OSHA 10 certificate or an OSHA 30. So we're not providing those like one-off safety certifications that a lot of companies need, but we are helping them with the most time-consuming and burdensome part of it, which is the recurring training and the hazard assessments. And so we introduce them by first, we schedule a quick demo. Our website is oursafetyteam.com, oursafetyteam.com. You can go there and download a free OSHA compliance checklist if you just want to see, where your company is at now compared to what OSHA would look at if they audited you. Or on our website, you could just book a demo. So that's normally how it gets started. So a company will meet with me or another sales guy online for a quick demo. I'll do a screen share and walk them through what an account looks like. All they have to do is add their employees into their account and their employees' phone numbers. And then all of their employees will get a text from us automatically to download our free app, and there's a link included in that text. And then on the morning of every scheduled safety training, they're going to get a text from us letting them know, hey, Derek, you have a mandatory safety video to watch today. don't forget to open the safety team app, watch the video, sign your name, complete the quiz. So they get that periodically till they're complete. And then inside our portal, I show our clients where if they want to do a job site safety assessment or hazard assessment checklist, they could pull it up in the mobile app, and I walk them through quickly how to do it. Or they could pull it up, on the computer and complete it there. But once they complete, whether it's a safety training or a hazard assessment checklist, all those records save digitally in their account so they can access them anytime they need them.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I gotta ask, with all of, the talk around, insurance and, your background in the insurance industry, and then going off and helping to solve a problem that you identified, what's the craziest claim that you've either had to deal with or have seen in your career, being in the insurance world?
Yeah, good question. Just last year, man, this guy, he was always like a problem client because he would never take my advice on anything. He had a roof tear off company. And I say had in past tense because he's not in business anymore. He ended up having I think it was a $5 million claim. And
Wow.
no insurance company would take it because he had a history of 1 or 2 claims a year. He would hire, the lowest skilled employees he could find. He'd pay them the bare minimum. And these guys are up on roofs, 6, 7, 8 hours a day in the hot sun, just tearing off, roofing materials and getting it ready for the skilled crew to come in and install a roof. And, he had no regard for safety, no regard for his employees. It was a toxic culture. And usually these are the types of companies I want to target because I could come in and I can make the biggest difference with a company like this. But if a business owner's attitude is a certain way and he's stubborn and he's not willing to listen to you and consider that there's alternatives to the way he's running his program and his company, then it's just tough. So yeah, he had an incident occur that was just bound to happen where he hired a young guy, like a 22-year-old guy who had lied to him and said that he had a lot of roofing experience. But they found out quickly that wasn't the case. So he had just gotten awarded a job at a school in San Jose, and he had the 22-year-old kid was up there. It was his first day on the job. I think he was only like on a 6-foot roof that it had a little slope to it, but he apparently tripped over a metal pipe coming out of the roof, fell off the roof, and went, head first into the concrete. And apparently he was still conscious. My client called me because he was there. Eric, what do I do? I just had a guy fall off the roof, but he seems fine. He's talking to me. I said, take him to the hospital right away. Because if he just fell on his head off the roof, sure, there's a good chance he might seem like he's okay, but something bad can happen soon. So he said he was talking to the kid on the way there, that he drove him to the hospital, and he seemed coherent. He was conscious. He was fine. But they put him into the CT scan when he got to the hospital. And sure enough, his brain was hemorrhaging. They could tell that he needed to go into the emergency room for a surgery right away. They ended up doing, a craniotomy where they have to remove part of his skull. He was in a coma for a month. Just horrible. I mean, this kid's life is permanently affected. Such a sad story. And just from my perspective, knowing that this guy was just due for something like this to happen.
Yeah, could have been prevented.
It could have been prevented. Yeah. So no insurance after that happened, like no insurance company is going to look at his claim history and say, sure, we're going to offer him coverage. Then, I mean, he had lawyers, coming after him the week after this happened. He had OSHA was there the next day, and he's got nothing, no safety training records, no injury illness prevention program. He just never cared about it. So, I mean, this is the reason why OSHA is important, right? Yeah. To most businesses, they're just a pain. They make life harder. They're really tough to deal with, but you can't have reckless business owners out there who have no regard for their employees' safety. So that's like the the best example I can, come up with on why safety is important and what can go wrong if you really just have no regard for it at all.
So what would you say? Because our listeners, they vary in size of companies that they either own or work in. But for folks that are listening that are newer business owners or just starting on their own, or even an employee who is just starting with a new company, what are some of the top things that they should avoid in order to either be compliant or remain safe on the job site?
In this day and age now, with all the new technology we have, it's really not that time consuming or difficult to get like a beginner level safety program in place and start implementing it right away. So your company at least is meeting some of the compliance and responsibilities for your state, but also showing the employees that, hey, you care about their safety. You want them to get back home to their family at the end of the night in one piece and not get hurt. And you want to keep your insurance costs down. So the easiest thing you can do now, honestly, is ChatGPT. I hate to say it, but I was playing around with the new version of it. And I said, I typed into the prompt exactly what industry a client of mine worked in, how many employees they have, what state we're in. And I said, create an injury illness prevention program, which is normally it's like a 30-page document. And inside of it, it has a lot of these other sections like emergency evacuation plan, first aid program, what the standards are for each industry. And it created it in like 8 seconds or something.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to read through it and make sure, it didn't have any mistakes or confuse anything. But for the most part, the new version of ChatGPT is pretty good. So you can go in, create that, customize it, save it on your computer or print it out, and you've got a good IIPP. And then the next step is just implementing the IIPP and when I say that, I mean like hosting safety trainings. So just you can go into your calendar and choose to do a once a month safety meeting with your worker. So schedule a date that you think is going to work and a time, and put it on a recurring series in your calendar. So it's like every Friday morning at 8 a.m., we're going to have the guys meet and we're going to talk about a safety topic. And then we're going to take attendance and put the attendance in the IIPP. And if you're just doing that, I mean, you're probably ahead of like 80 to 90% of a lot of companies out there if you're doing it consistently.
Yeah.
And once a quarter, do a hazard assessment, just like once a quarter. You could go online and print a hazard assessment checklist and put some of those in your binder, and then put a reminder in your calendar once a quarter, walk around your facility with the checklist and see if you spot any hazards. And if not, then just put the checklist back in the binder.
Yeah, it's so funny you say ChatGPT. None of that stuff was around when we were first starting 15 years ago, but it makes things so much easier, even just to put a simple plan together. It makes a lot of sense. So, I guess I know we're starting to get a little bit short on time here, and I want to make sure we're respectful of your time. And I could talk about this all day. It's very fascinating to me. But what do you think the future outlook looks like in terms of states and legislation and enforcement of these safety programs? Do you see it continuing to tighten up, or do you see it pulling back down the road?
Well, I mean, it's really tough to answer because it just depends on it depends on like the leadership. So who's in charge and what do they find important, where they want to prioritize their funding. Because right now, with Donald Trump, there's a lot of good things he's doing to help businesses. But with OSHA, and I mean, they consider that extra regulation, extra compliance. They're not putting any extra funding into OSHA right now. So if you're in a state like, I think Florida, Texas are examples of states that don't have their own state OSHA program, I mean, it's going to be probably a lot less regulation and OSHA auditors out in those states just because the federal government isn't putting a lot of emphasis into it right now and a funding. And even the states that do have their own OSHA programs, a lot of the funding for those does come from the federal level too. So it just seems like, at least for the next 3 years and for the past year, that OSHA is less of a threat and a risk than it was before. But if the pendulum swings back the other way, let's say Kamala Harris gets elected next time, or another liberal, then I mean, it could definitely go back to more money going into OSHA, them having more funding for hiring more field auditors and that sort of thing. So yeah, it all comes from the federal level. So it's politically, motivated what they decide to do. California is tough, and I think New York, there's always going to be OSHA there in those states, but you're probably seeing less field inspections than you did before. And I mean, but safety's still important just to keep your insurance costs down. And you still have insurance companies that you've got to deal with, and you want to look like a profitable company in their eyes. And so they're looking at, do you care enough to have a safety program? Are you implementing it? And if you are, you're going to get better rates. You're going to get better, you're going to have more carriers that want to quote you. They're going to get competitive with each other, and you end up really helping your business and doing yourself a big favor by having a good safety program in place.
One more question for you. So, from your perspective now, and having experience in the insurance world and now in the compliance side and helping businesses to, reduce risk and lower their insurance premiums, what would you tell a young business owner who is maybe shopping for an insurance policy or a broker? What are some of the questions that they should ask those folks when they're talking to them before they sign up?
Yeah, try to get an idea for which insurance companies they prefer working with and why. Because there's insurance carriers out there that will lure you in with a really low rate. But then when you have a claim, they don't want to support you. You might have evidence that an employee is not injured at all, right? They're helping their friends move. They're playing soccer on the weekend. You've got it on video.
Yep.
And you're like, hey, tell the underwriter, I'll send them the video. And some insurance underwriters are like, no, we don't want to have to go to court and fight this, or, the employee's going to hire an attorney too. So we're just going to settle for 40 grand or 50 grand or whatever it is. So you don't want a broker who's just going to settle with those options. Like, at least they should have a story on how they're going to help you. What are they going to do, the broker, to earn their commission that they get from the insurance company? So that's what I used to tell prospective clients. I would want to build a wedge between them and their current broker, because I want to become the broker.
Yep.
So I'd say, tell me so your policy is $100,000 a year in premium. Your broker's making like 10 or 15,000 of that in commission. What do they do to earn it? Are they just shopping the policy? Are they really even shopping it? But are they doing anything to help prevent claims, to, contribute to your safety compliance? And if they're just like, no, I hear from him once a year, him or her, when they have a new quote and they send it to me, and I don't know if they got other quotes. So, just be aware, if you're new and you're starting out, that there's a lot of insurance companies out there. There's a lot of options, and there's brokers that can offer you a lot of extra support beyond just quoting your insurance. They should be able to help you with your safety program. They should be able to put together like a fleet safety program for you. When your insurance sends their friendly, risk survey guy out to your business, which everyone hates those meetings, your broker should be there with you just to kind of help guide you through the process. And if they say, well, we want you to put this together, your broker should support you and help put whether it's a, fall prevention program binder. It's something that brokers should offer, so they're earning their commission for you every year.
I can tell you that's awesome advice, because I've learned the hard way on a lot of that. So I appreciate that. And, I appreciate you joining us and for all of your insight. If our listeners want to find you and explore your website and your safety compliance program, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'd say check out our website, oursafetyteam.com. It's OUR safety team. And on the top left corner, there's a green box. It says schedule 10-minute demo. You could just schedule a call with me or one of my associates, and we'll hear about your current situation and we'll show you our platform. It's very quick and straightforward. I think you'll love how simple to use it is. And yeah, it's that easy. Go to oursafetyteam.com. You could book a demo, or if you've already been convinced after what you've heard and what you've seen on our website, you could just sign up straight through the website as well. But it's always good to see a walkthrough first.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Eric, and it's been a pleasure having you join us on the podcast. And I wanted to, before we wrap up, give a shout out to our sponsors: Peoplease, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Michael's Group, Catamount Consulting, of course, our team, Daigle Cleaning Systems, and Five Towers Media. So thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, Five Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, the Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.